Hello and welcome to another video. In this video, we'll be going over how to use diagrams.net. So we're going to talk about how do we activate diagrams.net on our Google Drive. How do we make flowcharts in it? This is flowcharting software, so it's very easy to connect different boxes with dynamic arrows. Much easier to use than, say, making it in slides or PowerPoint. How do we add colors and adjust the grid so that we can play with our arrows a little bit? And then lastly, how do we make our own files for diagrams.net? So just for quick reference, you should have been shared on something called All Student Access. You'll get an email about that. Uh, check for it. As soon as you get it, highly recommend use this add to start to put it into your starred folders over here. You can also use the add shortcut to drive and put a shortcut in your own drive if that's more convenient for you, whichever workflow works. Inside All Student Access, we store all of the class data sets that we'll be using in shared files that you guys will work from. So here we have this file that's called diagrams.net file for authorizing G Drive. If you double click this, it'll open up a preview of what's in that file. And at the top here, we want to click open with a little arrow and suggested third-party app diagrams.net. Once you are in here, you can click authorize, select your email from the dropdown, check these two boxes. This will let it communicate with your Google Drive and then edit diagrams.net files on your Google Drive. Lastly, hit continue and bam, now you are authorized. You can come in, you can look at this diagram here. So here we just have a little sample diagram. In your case, I don't think we have you copy it, but if you do, there's usually file, make a copy, and then you can save it to your computer and re-upload it. These are just XML files, so there's a whole bunch of code in the background, but whatever. Let's not worry about that. So for now, let's say we want to make a new diagram. So maybe we want to talk about all my friends in IceLab. So I'm going to put a box down. I'm just going to drag it from over here, whichever shape I like. Ooh, I could do people. And I'm going to label this box Jordan, because that's me. Then maybe I want some more boxes. You can copy and paste boxes, so I'm just hitting Control C, Control V over here, and I'm using the grid spacing to put these out so that they're nicely arrayed. I don't really like randomly distributed boxes. I'm very uh, specific in how I organize things. On the edges of every box, let's zoom in a little bit here, there are these anchor points. When you hover on them, they turn green. So I want to connect all of my boxes over here to these boxes. I can move these arrows around. So this first arrow is just a straight arrow. He's not very exciting. These are, let's see what they call them, orthogonal arrows. I like the orthogonal arrows. They have all these little branches in them. You can pull them around if you want to get really creative. I'm going to get rid of those extra branches. They delete them when you merge them. I can label these boxes, so I can just double click. Let's see, we've got Xiao, Alenka, and of course, Professor Fajardo, which we'll just call Jackie for now. If I want to label my arrow, I can double click the arrow. Bam, friend. When you have this selected, you'll see this little orange pip in there. That's the anchor for this. If I move this around and change where my font is labeled, notice the anchor doesn't move, but the position of the font relative to it does. If I move the arrow it's connected to, it will move with the arrow. It's not super intelligent, so if you move the arrows, you'll probably have to manually readjust these. That's fine. Lastly, let's talk about how can we make this a little more interesting. So the first one we can do is we can add color to it. On the right panel here, we have all the formatting options for whatever you have active. So I really actually like the default color schemes up here that you can pick from. I usually use this first page. I like that they all contrast nicely with black text because they're so light colored. When you change them, it changes the default fill and the line around the outside. If you want to play with these yourself, you can go over here, click on the color you want. You can select a palette or you can manually click and drag around here. You can type in the hex code if you know it. Same for line. You can adjust the line thickness. You can adjust the line type. Opacity is a cool one. That one makes them a little transparent. If you want to be fancy, you can put shadows on them. I would be cautious about putting too much shadow on there, but just the right amount of shadow can make things pop. All right, so I'm going to just color all of these. And I don't like how my arrows are set up here, so I don't like that this one arrow splits off and becomes three, because it feels like Jordan has one connection when in fact he has many friends, and he wants to show that to the world. So one thing I can do here, I could just change the arrow type if I want to. So maybe I want to just connect them with straight arrows, and now bam, it's obvious. I have three arrows here. Presumably these two are also friends. If I put this a little farther back, that might help. Um, if I don't like this background color, I can change it or I can put a border on it. Make it a little easier to read. But I actually don't really care for this. So what I like to do is I like to keep the orthogonal, but I'm going to bundle my arrows. So I could bundle them like this if I wanted to. I don't really like how big this gap is between them, but I mean, zoomed out, it kind of communicates the point. But if I keep getting more arrows, like if I have more and more and more friends, this falls apart quickly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on the background here. I'm going to change my grid size to 2, and then I'm going to really bring these in so they're close together. Then I'm going to return my grid size, drag my friend label down, and now I see, okay, I have a whole bunch of friends. Their arrows are all tightly packed, so I presume they're labeled the same way and they're connected. One last thing I like to do is I like to color code my arrows. So I like to match them to whatever box they're connecting to. And, sorry, my throat gets dry. So I like to connect them to whatever box they're connecting to by that color. And that makes it easy. Like if these boxes are really far away, it's easy to follow the color line you're looking for. Like you're like, okay, this line I'm following, the red one, red one, red. Okay, there's the red box. Got it. It's also nice in very complex images where you have lots of boxes with lots of connections. Following colored connections is a little easier than following a bunch of black connections that overlap. Um, Another cool thing you can do is let's say you have two connections and just no matter what you do, you cannot stop them from overlapping. Like I want to connect, well, I mean, I guess we could, but so I want to connect these guys like this. I could, if it was a real problem and I was worried about getting my readers confused over there, I could go all the way around this box and just delete that. Um, Maybe there's other reasons I wouldn't want to do this and I really need this middle piece. What can we do to spice this up? Again, if the boxes are colored, maybe these are both blue, but one's green, one's red. That's easy to follow. I can tell that those are different arrows going different directions. If I go back to my monocolor, I can also cheat here. So I like this. You can add a little hop over it. Bam, bam, bam. And you can tell, okay, it looks like this arrow is jumping over top that other arrow. That's kind of cool. All right, so the last thing I want to cover is, this is an existing diagrams.net file. How do you make your own? Well, once you've authorized, you can refresh your page here. You can just right click more diagrams.net file to make your own file. So let's go check our learning objectives. We have activated it. We can make flowcharts within diagrams.net. We can play with some of those settings to customize them a little bit more. And then we can make a new diagram.net file so that we can make our own. One other thing I might mention is if you do a lot of coloring within your images, make sure it's very intentional. Include a legend. Tell us what those different color boxes mean. Don't just color boxes for the sake of coloring them. And with that, thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.